हरि बोल तो करता हूँ।
हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे राम।
हरि बोल मदन गोपाल प्रभु।
Hare Krishna, Rubilas.
हरे कृष्ण
Thank you for joining.
प्रभु, you are doing great job, प्रभु.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Jai Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
हरे कृष्ण महाराज.
Hare Krishna. How are we doing? Hare Krishna. Oh, Lakshmana. Jaya.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna. You can unmute everyone, I guess.
Yeah.
Until we're ready to go.
Ekendra Prabhu is here. Ekendra Prabhu, Hari Bol.
Namaha, Namaha, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Jai Maharaj, Hare Krishna.
Joy, joy.
So it is time, if it's okay with you, Maharaj, we can start with the Kirtan.
Yeah, strike up the band.
Yeah.
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna.
Okay.
Hare Krishna.
Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Pariprajaka Ashtotra Satashi Srimad A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai, Nama Acharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai, Prem Sakaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai, Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopinath Sham Kund Radha Kunigiri Govardhan Ki Jai, Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai, Navadip Dham Ki Jai, Jagannath Puri Ki Jai, Gangamai Ki Jai, Jamunamai Ki Jai, Tulsi Devi Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Samaveta Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. So, welcome to all. Thank you all very much for coming, returning. We're continuing our reading of Srimad Bhagavatam, and we've progressed up to 118, 26, if I'm not wrong. Yes, 26. Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatade Shatarane Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Shadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Again, our system is that I'll read and speak, but if you have any questions or thoughts to express, feel free to jump in. Just you can unmute yourself and turn your screen on, and in this way we'll carry on.
Maharaj, I just wanted to request all of the participants, if they do want to ask a question, please use your microphone and ask instead of the chat line, and turn your video on so everybody can see who's asking the question, and Maharaj can also see. It'll make the experience nicer. So if you have a question, please unmute yourself and turn your video on and ask.
Unless you want to be, yes, do it that way. That's good. Okay. So we've been hearing, the sages have encouraged Sutta Goswami to speak further about Parikshit Maharaj. And Parikshit Maharaj and Sutta Goswami agreed. And he's beginning from the point where Parikshit Maharaj, while hunting in the forest, became hungry and thirsty and entered the hermitage, the ashram of Shamik Rishi. Pratirudhendriya pran mano buddhim uparatam sthana trayat parang praptam brahmabhutam avikriyam. The Muni's sense organs, breath, mind, and intelligence were all restrained from material activities, and he was situated in a trance, apart from the three, wakefulness, dream, and unconsciousness, having achieved a transcendental position qualitatively equal with the Supreme Absolute. There are these three, sthana trayat, from the three, he was pradam, transcendental. The three are jagrata, wakefulness, and swapna, dream, and susupti, deep sleep. The Srila Jiva Goswami explains that deep sleep is dreamless sleep, and we know it's there because later we wake up and we say, I was so deep asleep that I don't know anything about what was going on. Dreams, we remember I was dreaming about this or that, but susupti is deep sleep beyond even dreaming. But the stage of trance is beyond all three of these, wakefulness, dream, and susupti, or deep sleep. Pratirudhendriya pran, mana buddhim uparatam. So his senses were inactive, and his mind and intelligence were also restrained or withdrawn. There's a sentence here that perplexed me a little bit. In the Bhagavad Gita also, we have the information of the gradual development of perception from matter to a living entity. Yeah. So I was thinking, what does that mean? And I thought that it must be Indriyani paranyahu or Indriyebhya param manaha manasastu parabhutir yo bhute paratastu saha. In the Bhagavad Gita, this progression is given that higher than the matter, dull matter, are the senses, and higher than the senses, the mind, higher than the mind, the intelligence, and higher than intelligence is the soul. So that's my speculation about what Srila Prabhupada is referring to. And as I continued in the purport, it seemed to be supported. Prabhupada says, the perception of matter is transcended to still subtler states of the senses. The senses are transcended to the subtler mind, and then to breathing activities, and gradually to intelligence. Beyond the intelligence, the living entity is realized by the mechanical activities of the yoga system or practice of meditation, restraining the senses, and so on. So that seems to correspond quite closely to that verse of Bhagavad Gita. In any case, the relevant point here is that the Muni was deeply in trance, and therefore he was withdrawn from all material activities, and he'd achieved Brahmabhuta, the Brahmabhuta stage, which Prabhupada renders as transcendental equality with the Supreme qualitatively. Any questions here or comments so far? Okay. Viprakirna Jatachanam Roravena Janena Cha Vishusyat Talur Udakam Tata Bhutam Ayachata. The sage in meditation was covered by the skin of a stag, and long compressed hair was scattered all over him. The king, whose palate was dry from thirst, asked him for water. So, the king, being thirsty, asked the sage for water. That such a great devotee and king asked for water from a sage absorbed in trance was certainly providential. Otherwise, there was no chance of such a unique happening. Maharaj Parikshit was thus placed in an awkward position so that gradually Srimad Bhagavatam could be revealed. We wouldn't expect that the king would fail to notice that the sage was in trance, and that therefore, and just like sometimes we see, someone's chanting Gayatri and a less experienced devotee goes up to him to ask some question, whereas a more experienced devotee will say, oh, he's chanting his Gayatri mantra, I'll wait. So it's really unusual that the king would request anything of the sage, although he might have been thirsty, still he would have seen he's in trance, okay, nothing, no point disturbing him. But things went otherwise, as we shall see. Alabda trinna bhumyadir asam praptarghya sunrita avagatam ivatmanam manyamanastrikopaha. The king, not received by any formal welcome by means of being offered a seat, place, water, and sweet addresses, considered himself neglected, and so thinking, he became angry. Purport: the law of reception in the codes of the Vedic principles states that even if an enemy is received at home, he must be received with all respects. He should not be given a chance to understand that he's come into the house of an enemy. When Lord Krishna, accompanied by Arjuna and Bhima, approached Jarasandha in Magadha, Bihar, the respectable enemies were given a royal reception by King Jarasandha. The guest enemy, namely Bhima, was to fight with Jarasandha, and yet they were given a grand reception. At night, they used to sit down together as friends and guests, and in the day they used to fight, risking life and death. That was the law of reception. The reception law enjoins that a poor man who has nothing to offer his guest should be good enough to offer a straw mat for sitting, a glass of water for drinking, and some sweet words. Therefore, to receive a guest, either friend or foe, there's no expense. It's only a question of good manners. So this is Vedic culture. This is culture, first of all, to receive a guest nicely and to welcome the guest, even if there's some difference of opinion or even enmity. The guest should be received very nicely. And what to speak of a friend or a relative. Now, this is culture, and especially Vedic culture. I know one time we were on Padayatra. When I was on Padayatra in South India, one day we were going up and down these hills, up and down, and the bulls even became exhausted, and some devotees were having to pull the cart with the deities. And finally we got to some place, and everybody just fell out. There was some grassy space there. Everybody just knocked out, or just lay down. And I was with a couple of devotees, and we were near this little hut. And while we were lying there, a lady came out of the hut and brought some little asanas, just little cloth or straw asanas, and just put them. And then she came out again, and she put some little steel cups of water. And then she went back into her little hut and came back and had some little agarbatti that she put there. So even though she was a villager and a simple lady, she saw that some sadhus have wound up on nearby, and she arranged for the very simple but very welcome reception. Another time on Padayatra, we were on a long stretch. Usually we would break up the morning by walking a good distance and then having our class and then breakfast and then walk some more till we got to our destination. This morning it was a long stretch. There was really no place to break for our breakfast and class. But there was we came upon this one, what was it? Like a little Catholic ashram. And the compound. And we asked if we could have our class there and then have our breakfast there. So the sisters were looking and seeing the deities and devotees and going back and forth about it. I think maybe there were some fathers there also. And then they finally decided that you can't have your class, but you can have your breakfast. So we all came in, and it's a little touchy, but came and sat down for our breakfast. And then all the sisters, because they were Indian ladies after all, they all wound up serving, and it was just inevitable. So this is Vedic culture, that if a guest comes, the guest has to be treated very nicely. Something to eat, some water at least, and if you don't have anything else, some sweet words. This is the custom. And so Maharaj Parikshit was surprised that no reception, not even a straw mat, not even some sweet words, avagatam, he was just neglected. And manyamana, he was thinking like that, and he became angry, chukopaha. This is also kama krodho vijayate, from frustration of desire comes anger. So the king thought that I'm the king, I've been neglected. They should have at least, this rishi should have at least offered some sweet words, if nothing else. So he became angry. This is the nature of the mind, that it starts going, and it quickly can work itself up into indignation and anger, and then uncontrolled anger becomes a source of, what is that? Trividam narakasyedam dwaram nashanam kama krodha ta, no, that's tata lopa. Yakamakrota tata lopa tasmade tatrayam. 3 gates to hell, lust and greed and anger. Then Prabhupada explains that this astonishing scene took place. It's maybe a little astonishing that there was no reception, but that the king, who was a saintly king after all, should become angry was very astonishing. So it must be accepted that it was so ordained by the supreme will of the Lord. The king was a great devotee of the Lord, and the saint was also as good as the king. But by the will of the Lord, the circumstances were so created that they became ways to the king's becoming unattached to family connection and governmental activities, and thus becoming a completely surrendered soul unto the lotus feet of the Lord. So this is Krishna's arrangement, that he sometimes creates an awkward circumstance, a difficult circumstance, a natural, unusual circumstance, just to free his devotee from material attachment, just to change things in such a way that as to release the devotee from material entanglement. We talked about that the other day. Yasyaham anugranami parishe tatanamshanai. Krishna may take away all your money, or there's so many things that Krishna may do to upset the apple cart. We have everything nicely settled. We know how things are going to work. Everything's on an even keel. And then Krishna throws everything up in the air, or Krishna switches the scene on us. And then we become frustrated. The merciful Lord sometimes creates such awkward positions for his pure devotees in order to drag them toward himself from the mire of material existence. Outwardly, the situations appear frustrating to the devotees, but they're always under the protection of the Lord. And in any condition, frustration or success, the Lord is the supreme guide for the devotees. The pure devotees, therefore, accept all conditions of frustration as blessings from the Lord. Okay, Katya has a short question about verse 26. I just want to make another point about 28, and then we can come back to that. In the it's interesting that what Krishna is delivering the king from is family connection and governmental activities. These are two great attachments in material life. Family connection is so strong, it becomes almost unimaginable that we could leave our family life. Prabhupada said that when his Guru Maharaj appeared to him in a dream, he was thinking and said that you should take sannyas. Prabhupada thought, this is horrible. I have to leave my family. We're so, we can't imagine doing that. Elsewhere in the Bhagavatam, it said that attachment to one's wife is so strong that if one can overcome that attachment, then one can conquer the unconquerable supreme personality of God. What is that? Ata griha kshetra sutta apta vitai. The connection between husband and wife becomes very strong, and one thinks that this is who I am. I'm this body. This is my wife. This is my family. Even if one is educated, a devotee certainly knows I'm not this body, but still this connection. How could I ever leave this There's another section in Srimad Bhagavatam. Maybe someone remembers where that is, where it's said that the children are speaking in broken language, and the father is thinking, how could I ever leave such children? The wife is speaking in sweet words, and he's thinking, how could I ever leave such a sweet and devoted wife? Someone remember where that is? It's there in Bhagavatam. How all of these, what would you say? That this whole environment of family life is so strong that we can't imagine breaking out of it. Someone becomes trapped in this attachment because family life finally is in terms of the bodily identity, temporary identity, but it becomes very strong, and to get free is very strong. Sankarshan says that this appears in the pastimes of Lord Ramchandra in the 9th canto. Katya says no. She thinks it's 7th canto. I don't think it's 9th canto either. Yes?
Is it the 6th canto with the story of Ajamila and his attachment to his son in 6th canto?
I just can't remember.
I'm looking at it now.
Panchatattva, 7, 6, 11 through 13.
7. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Panchatattva, would you like to read 7, 6, 11 through 13? Hello, hello. Okay.
Hey, Maharaj.
Yes.
That is, the translation is, how can a person who is most affectionate to his family, the core of his heart being always filled with their pictures, give up their association? Specifically, a wife is always very kind and sympathetic and always pleases her husband in a solitary place. Who could give up the association of such a dear and affectionate wife? Small children talk in broken language, very pleasing to hear, and their affectionate father always thinks of their sweet words. How could he give up their association? One's elderly parents and one's sons and daughters are also very dear. A daughter is especially dear to her father, and while living at her husband's house, she's always in his mind. Who could give up that association? Aside from this, in household affairs, there are many decorated items of household furniture, and there are also animals and servants. Who could give up such comforts? The attached householder is like a silkworm, which weaves a cocoon in which it becomes imprisoned, unable to get out. Simply for the satisfaction of two important senses, the genitals and the tongue, one is bound by material conditions. How can one escape?
So this is a vivid depiction of the we'd say, natural affections that develop in family life. We develop these relationships of gratitude and appreciation, and there's a sweetness there sometimes. And even if it's not always sweet, still we think, this is so, this is my life. This is my life. So the householder becomes trapped like a silkworm in a cocoon. He can't get out. So it's the mercy sometimes of the Lord that he changes things in such a way that the devotee becomes detached from family life. Vidura is the example. He became detached from family and from the government, which is the next entanglement. He became, Parikshit Maharaj, unattached to family connection and governmental activities. A person in government thinks that so much depends on me. One attains the top post or any important post, like Dhritarashtra wants to hold on to it. And one develops this sense that this this is what my life is about, this honor, this the opportunity to do all sorts of creative things or to use power for good purposes, whatever either for the public welfare or for my own welfare. And one becomes very reluctant to give up that post. King, senator, congressman, mayor, CEO, GBC, trustee, head of, chairman of the board, whatever it is. When one is involved in a position of responsibility and perhaps prestige, one becomes exceedingly attached to these things, or one may become exceedingly attached to these things. Even in devotional life, the tendency may be there to hold on to my position. If I weren't doing this, what would I do? If I weren't doing this, how would my life have meaning? What would be the point of my life? I'm a senator, or I'm the head of this department. If I weren't this, what would I do? Enter a retirement home and play golf? So this sense that this is who I am and this is what gives my life meaning becomes very strong. And so one is reluctant to give these things up. But here, by the arrangement of Krishna, things were so arranged that the king became detached. And of course, because he was a pure devotee, the materialist, even if he were in such an awkward circumstance, the person with a poor stock of pious activities would still fight on. Let me stay, somehow, doctor, give me 4 more years. But the devotee catches the signal. He sees that Krishna is arranging things in such a way that he's bringing me closer to him. He's obliging me to surrender. He's ruining my material life or making it too awkward to continue. So that's special mercy from Krishna. Anything on this before we go back to text 26?
I have one question on this topic. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
I'll turn my video on. Hare Krishna. Okay. This idea of becoming attached to one's position, even in a spiritual community. And in previous classes, you were talking about vanaprastha. And I can't help but think that it might actually help prevent people from becoming too attached to their positions if people in the younger ages took better care of their elders, of taking away some of those worries about what would I do, if I gave up my position, what would happen to me. Just some thoughts on that, and also take on more responsibility so that people felt okay about giving up their positions.
There's certainly something to be said for that. In the Vedic culture, there's so much respect. Why did Vedic culture, Ten Commandments, honor your father and your mother? There's so much respect for parents and for elders, and the thought of neglecting such persons or treating them indifferently is almost unimaginable. When Dhritarashtra left home, the Yudhisthira was so disturbed. Have I offended them? Have I done something? What's happened? Because that sense is so strong that we have to honor and respect our seniors. And generally that's also in the family life, the son would feel responsible for the work of the father, and often very big business. The son would feel responsible for the care of the mother. All of these things are part of family life and culture. So but in Kali Yuga and in Western society especially, these things become ignored, or they just lose meaning. Why? My parents could take care of themselves. Dad has money. I've got my own life, and I'll help as far as possible. But this strong bond of family life is absent. In one way, that's an advantage. Prabhupada said that was the one good thing about you Western boys and girls. You weren't very attached to family life. Whereas we see in Indian families, the idea of a son just becoming a brahmachari is like, whoa, so difficult. So that is culture. It worked to our advantage that we didn't have any, but we need to develop that culture. And certainly in ISKCON, or in any society of devotees, that's necessary to build a proper society in which women are cared for, children are cared for, elderly people are cared for, Brahmins are cared for, cows are cared for. This is Vedic society. And that does make it easier for everything to develop. First of all, for people to be peaceful and therefore to chant Hare Krishna and develop their spiritual life, to travel through the stages of the Varnashram system, the Brahmacharya, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, up through Sannyas. When these cultural institutions, cultural norms are in place, then this all becomes so much easier. But that said, we can't depend on these things. Our becoming detached from material life can't be contingent upon there being nice arrangements. Just as death is not contingent upon nice arrangements. It's not that I can't die because my daughter isn't married yet or because my wife still needs me. I have to die when I have to die. So in a similar way, one has to become Krishna conscious, one has to become ready to die, one has to become detached from everything material in order to go back to Godhead. So the circumstances may be all nicely developed, nicely evolved, with all sorts of conducive arrangements, or things may not be very well put together. But I can't wait for everything to fall into place. And we find that sometimes in people's lives, everything sort of fell into line and they left family life and joined Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement. And sometimes things were more difficult. Raghunath Das Goswami's family didn't make it easy for him, but he left. So that's sort of both sides of that issue. Is that okay?
That's really helpful. Thank you very much. And if I may just add one comment on that is, oftentimes when I hear maybe complaints about, especially within ISKCON, of, oh, there's no positions available, that sort of people holding on to their positions. I think that we all have to take our own responsibility, and what can we do with whatever station we're in life to help make it an easier transition, whether we're taking on more responsibility ourselves or taking care of our elders.
Yeah, it's on the one side, we want to. There's a lot of things sort of come together here, because we want, for example, to create greater opportunities for young people, and at the same time, we don't have a clear direction for the old people to go in, and so they hold on, and then they block the path of the younger people. So that, as Venkatabbata once memorably said in a GBC meeting, the young people in this movement are convinced that you won't give anything up until they claw the keys out of your cold, dead hands. So then young people become frustrated or just lose interest and think, well, let me do something practical and out there in the material world and not beat my head against the wall or bang on the door that no one wants to open. So if we want to see that detachment from our elders and therefore the advancement of the younger people, it will be intelligent of us to think about how we can provide some facility, some suitable arrangements for the older people, and for women especially. If we value the idea that a man should leave home, that a man should become free from family attachment, then we have to think about, well, yeah, okay, but what happens to his wife? If he's very strong, he thinks, if I die, Krishna will take care of her, so I'll die materially and let Krishna work it out. But that's very difficult. It's easier if he knows that this arrangement is there, that arrangement is there, she'll be taken care of, I can go. So if we're a society that values renunciation, then we should also place value on taking care of the wife that needs to be renounced, or the children who need to be renounced, everything.
Thank you. That was really helpful.
Thank you. Katya, you had a question on, or is there anything else on this, first of all? Because it's an important topic.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Who's that?
Yeshwadulal Das.
Hare Krishna. Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. I would pronounce. My question was about the verse and the purport that you just read and what you talked about, which was, I'm thinking to myself, if someone like Maharaj Parikshit needed to be dragged out of his family attachment and attachment to government affairs, that makes me feel very hopeless as a beginning devotee as to how long it's going to take me, because if a pure devotee like Maharaj Parikshit needed to be dragged out with these unique circumstances, then what happens to little devotees who are maybe just kind of like 10%, 1% into their journey?
Well, awkward circumstances have a way of finding us anyway. That Krishna is so merciful that even the small devotees can be put into awkward circumstances. Now the whole world is being put into an awkward circumstance. So these things can certainly be there. But as Prabhupada said, Maharaj Parikshit recognized the signal from the Lord. So that we have to do. And of course, the sannyasis and the sannyasis have the duty also to sort of disrupt the comfortable life of the householders at an appropriate time with the message of detachment, with an urging to get free from family life. And of course, again, we have that middle section, the mysterious and largely unmanifest vanaprastha ashram, which is the path along which the householder can travel more easily, so that he develops, detachment in place without having to just suddenly give up family life. He's able to cultivate a detached, a return to detachment, as it were, return to freedom, step by step. So that vanaprastha ashram is crucial.
Thank you.
Thank you, Yashodadula Prabhu. Something else?
Maharaj, this is a Shamkunas.
Yes, Shamkun Prabhu.
Maharaj, I have a question on the purport which you read just now, where Prabhupada says, by the will of providence, sometimes it creates an unusual kind of situation for pure devotees like Parikshit Maharaj. Right? So the question I have is, in this whole equation, right, what is Shamik Rishi's position? Did Krishna also use him in this case, or only Parikshit Maharaj?
Oh no, the whole Krishna is the stage manager. He's the director of the whole drama. So everybody plays their part. At Kurukshetra, everything is arranged so that Duryodhana won't give enough land to that you could drive a pin into, and the Pandavas are exiled for so many years, and Shakuni is scheming and cheating, and Draupadi is insulted and then vengeful. So all of these things contribute finally to the speaking of Bhagavad Gita. So Krishna's arranging everything, and the devotee sees that behind everything, Krishna's hand is there. So Maharaj Parikshit, or any devotee, when frustrated, he can either just go on being frustrated and whatever, complain about injustice, or he can start to discern Krishna's arrangement behind all these things. Damodar Vilas, is that all right, Shamkun Prabhu?
Yes, Maharaj. So Maharaj, in other words, Krishna can use both devotees as well as non-devotees when he wants to achieve certain purpose.
He can use devotees, he can use non-devotees, he can use material things. Your car can break down, your house can burn up, your viruses can go wild, anything can happen. Krishna can use everything. Your mother can be bitten by a snake, as it happened to Narad Muni, and that's a great tragedy, but it was providential. Narad left home and went out for spiritual realization. So Krishna can use snakes, family members, the sages, everything. Everything is there to be controlled and arranged by Krishna. Damodar Vilas says, it was recommended to travel to holy dhams during Vanaprastha ashram, both husband and wife. Eventually, husband will not come back home and wife will be taken care of by the children. Yes, that was one system, that they could travel to the holy places, and then at some point the wife would return and the children would take care. I know in Bombay, our BTG publisher, Yudhisthira Prabhu, when I first met him, he was living with his children, his wife, his widowed mother, and his grandmother, and taking care of everyone. And that was, we would think that this was so exceptional. And it was, a very good example. But this is not unseen in Indian life even today, or in Vedic culture, that such responsibility is accepted. Katya, let's hear your question.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, I just wonder. So it said the Muni has achieved a transcendental position qualitatively equal with the Supreme Absolute. So I can't really understand what does it mean, like how he achieved this transcendental position if we are always in this position, and what kind of realization he acquired. Because I understand, is the verse like means that he realized maybe that he is eternal and full of knowledge, or he understood some of these aspects, or what does it mean? I just don't understand. Thank
Yeah,
you.
that he achieved qualitative identity with the Supreme. As you said, everyone's already qualitatively identical with the Supreme. We're all Satchidananda, we're all eternal and blissful and full of knowledge. So there's no question of achieving that position. It's already ours. But therefore, it would be sensible to conclude that he realized that. He achieved the transcendental position, means he realized that. I'm eternal, but I'm thinking I'm this body. I'm full of knowledge, but I've forgotten who I am. I'm blissful, but I'm miserable because my sense enjoyment is not to my satisfaction. But when here the word is Brahmabhuta, Brahmabhuta Prasannatma. When one comes to the Brahmabhuta platform, one realizes one's qualitative identity with Krishna. I'm not this body. I'm spirit soul. I'm part of Krishna. That's my real identity. So to understand that is the Brahmabhuta platform, or the platform achieved by Shamak Rishi. The platform of detachment from all material identification with the gross senses, with the subtle mind, with kingdom and responsibilities and everything. Just my real identity is that I'm spirit soul. And from that platform, one goes still further. Mad bhaktim labhate param. One realizes that spirit soul means that I'm a servant of Krishna. So that's the perfection of the Brahmabhuta platform. Is that good enough?
But I want to. Can you please also tell if he couldn't understand that he is also full of bliss, right? Because how he could understand it, just the process of meditation.
How could he understand
that he is full of bliss just by process of meditation?
Yes, the nature of the soul is to be blissful. The nature of the soul is joyful. And therefore, when I come, even from the point of view of like now, the coronavirus might get me, and my finances have gone to hell, and I don't know when my job is going to start up again, and everything's like da 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 da. But when one comes to the Brahmabhuta platform, Nashochati, Nakankshati, he has nothing to lament over, nothing to desire. Sama sarveshu bhuteshu, he's equal toward all living beings or all circumstances. And that the soul is by nature blissful. So he feels relief. How much relief? Right now it's like every kind of anxiety is gripping the world. And if we all came to the platform that actually I'm eternal, they can't do anything to me, the virus will never affect me at all because I'm not this body. How much relief? Just like right now we're confined, so people are feeling, after a week or 10 days, they're already feeling it's too much to be confined to my apartment or my house. So one day, the government will say, okay, it's safe to come out. and everybody will go, yay! And they'll party it up, and they'll forget all about, you know, the meaning of it and so on. But the point is, they'll feel great relief. So when I know that I'm not this body, what a relief. It's not the perfect happiness of devotional service. That's the still higher platform of true bliss. But just to be free from this bodily identity and to identify oneself as soul brings one to a blissful platform. Is that okay?
Yes, thank you, Maharaj.
Okay.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna. Who's there?
Nilmani Das.
Hare Krishna.
Maharaj, on your comment about providence and how Krishna is the stage director orchestrating this big drama everywhere, I was thinking, does that not kind of negate the idea of free will and independence a little bit? Is it that really Krishna is controlling everything and orchestrating everything, or is it that he's just the master of incorporating whatever actions we as individual souls do into his kind of master plan, and kind of adapting his plan based on our actions?
Yeah, there's still minute independence. It's not that Krishna's, even Arjuna, he could have said, well, you know, I've listened to this whole Bhagavad Gita, but it's just too much for me. I'm going to the forests. I'm sorry. Could have done that. He had that much independence. Therefore, Krishna said, you taste Sita Thakur, do as you like. That much is there. But Krishna's so much on top of things. Just even like if you're the government and you're making plans, you plan for contingencies because you know that some people are not going to follow the restrictions, or some people are going to do this, or some people are going to do that, or some people are going to use the opportunity to try to break into the bank, or whatever it is. So you plan for the contingencies. And because you're imperfect, you don't quite meet all the, you're not quite ready for all the contingencies, not quite on top of everything. But Krishna's on top of everything. So if the sage, for example, were to wake up and say, I'm sorry, I didn't realize, Krishna would have another arrangement. But this was his arrangement, and it worked.
Thank you, Maharaj.
It's an interesting thought, is, you know, since everything is scripted, how much freedom do we have? But we're assured that we always have at least a little.
I think Tulsi Priya had a question. Tulsi Priya, is your hand still up?
Tulsi Priya, question?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So my question is about Vanaprastha and the idea of renunciation. Because we don't have very structured society, you know, everybody is very individualistic, and there's so many different configurations of family life in Kali Yuga, and particularly this century. Does it make sense to say that we could also configure Vanaprastha in different ways according to different circumstances? For instance, my husband and I we don't have children. If he takes off for the forest, I'm all alone. I've tried to unofficially adopt a few people, but I don't think they're biting. So my question is, you know, there's like, sometimes you see couples that they've been married a long time, and then they live together. They're still happily married, or they may not live together all the time, but they have separate interests. They have separate lives. And, you know, sometimes I tell my husband, you know, go off and travel with somebody, which now is not a good idea. But I don't know if what I'm saying is making sense. You have a sort of modified Vanaprastha where your lives are more separate. There's a little more detachment, but you're not completely detached because the circumstances may not be favorable for complete detachment. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. First of all, Vanaprastha is already rather malleable. It's not that it's all like sannyasa. It's very clear. You know, kiss the girl goodbye and you're gone. You know, it's over. Very simple. But in Vanaprastha ashram, things are adjusted and adjustable. It's a 25-year process after all, and it's going to be, we might say, tailored to the individual case, so that some couples might go to a holy place and live there, some might travel to different holy places, or the wife might stay at home while the husband travels and sometimes comes back. There are different kinds of ways that these things might be configured. Some might serve in a temple. You know, we have here in Tuako, Vrindavan Chandra and his wife, and their children are grown, and they're just living in the temple and serving the deities. You know, that's another system of retired life. So there are many different ways of putting it together, but how it exactly works. But the point is detachment and detachment and detachment and detachment. And finally, the sense that things are ultimately not in my hands, they're in Krishna's hands. And you have 25 years to work this out, or at least in theory, 25 years, if our life lasts long enough. So that, all right, what will we do here? And if we're moving, that's the point, that there's progressive development. There's progressive development, just as in family life. You know, people get married, they don't know how they're going to, you know, how we're going to afford a flat and a car. That's like a big challenge, perhaps, in the beginning. And then after that, you know, things are more developed, and then they have children, and how we're going to, but somehow or other, without really necessarily having everything mapped out, they move forward in their family life. They developed from being like one day just two different people living on their own, now so many responsibilities and you know, a different life. So if we can go that way, then we can go the other way also. That, well, if we built it up, we can wind it down. And that's the project of the Vanaprastha ashram. And then finally, trusting in Krishna, that he will, because that's, you know, essential actually, that Vanaprastha life means I develop my Krishna consciousness, so that I trust that Krishna will maintain me, Krishna will protect me, and some arrangement comes into play there. So as we were discussing before, on the one side there's the responsibility of the society, and on the other side there's this sense that finally I have to leave this world, and I have to cultivate detachment before I go. And I see little faces lighting up, indicating that it's time for me to develop a sense of detachment from tonight's class.
It is 9:07. I believe Hari Kirtan probably had his hand up, but I think he put his hand down again. I don't know if we have time, or maybe we can continue on Wednesday with that. Hari Kirtan, probably want to make a comment real quick?
Krishna, in his form as time, is sending me a signal that there is no more time left for my question. So I would like to get online first for Wednesday, when I will ask my question and not push us further into this evening.
Okay, remind me, and we'll start there.
Yes, we'll make a note.
Do you want to say something about coming attractions, Madan Gopal Prabhu?
Yes, thank you, Maharaj. So coming attractions is His Holiness Jayadvaita Swami, again on Wednesday and Friday. Those are big attractions. Tomorrow evening at the same time, 8 p.m. And Thursday evening at the same time, we have His Grace Shyamananda Prabhu. Right? So I think that'll be very nice.
Our co-president from Chopati.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj. Dandavat.
Who's that?
Sankesh Prabhu.
This is Aniruddha. Just want to say Hare Krishna and
Hare Krishna, Aniruddha Prabhu.
So, and stay tuned for some of the other for the other upcoming speakers. We have Venkat Bhatta Prabhu on Saturday, Chaitanya Charan Prabhu coming up, His Holiness Bhakti Marga Swami, His Holiness Lokanath Swami, Radhika Raman Prabhu once more, and we have Amarendra Prabhu and His Holiness Sachinandana Swami also. So we have quite a lineup, already booked and finalized. So please stay tuned for these announcements, and we'll be sending them out via the various channels, Facebook, etc., or on our website, iskonofnewjersey.org. You can find these updates. So thank you very much for joining. Hare Krishna. Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Haribol.
Haribol.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Maharaj.
Thank you.